Alright, here we go. Doesn't really have anything to do with the classes directly, but we can talk about esports, being involved with our tech club. Also, we have a server set up on Discord, and you'll be getting an email with that. Hopefully I get that all done tomorrow. Today is Thursday, the 5th, day 4, week 2 for the Tuesday-Thursday classes. Network Essentials, the students took some time, looked through some quiz review questions, anything on Chapter 1. If you were not comfortable asking a question in class, maybe do it by email. You can text me. You can just set up an appointment. Great time to get things squared away. Networks in our daily lives, we talked about a few fundamental things in that today, and then we spent quite a bit of time on some lab work. Let's take a look at what we talked about. We talked about how do switches remember or identify the different devices on a network. Well, it does it with a media access control address. We're going to talk more specifically about that later on, but we took a look at MAC addresses in these, what we will be terming, we'll be calling these later on layer 2 switches. It's that physical address. We're going to see an example here in just a little bit of that. Access points, they do the same thing. Your phone has a MAC address in it, a physical address that is different than any other phone in the world. In fact, all devices, whether it's Internet of Things, whether it's laptops, PCs, phones, Alexa, Google, Home, blah, 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 all these things, your refrigerator, they all, when they come from the manufacturer, have a unique physical address. We'll learn more about that later on. We talked a little bit then, small network going to the firewall, and then from the firewall we can go out to the internet. Domain name, Dell.com. Domain name services, we talked a little bit about DNS. In order to access this, DNS gives us an IP address, Internet Protocol address, and that's what we use to actually get to the server. Actually, once we get in there, to get to the server, somewhere a physical address is involved also. I use the analogy, you get a letter to your house address can sort of be like a IP address, but your social security number or your name individually, how that letter gets directly to you, you have your physical address, actually you. Now, could your house address change? Sure, you could move to Rudd, get a house there and get an address there. So, but you are still you. Okay, Sally is still Sally. So it's like all these devices they have that physical address. Okay, media access control. So we talked a little bit here about local networks and how they look. Typically, when I write up here, I'm drawing a logical diagram. And we'll talk more later on about, probably Tuesday, physical diagrams. These are more specific. These are more, it's logical. It doesn't show all the steps. For example, the PCs in the classroom, they have a blue wire. It runs from the PC to a jack, and then from the jack there's wiring that runs to a patch panel, and then from the patch panel goes to the switch. So there's like these stops, but when we draw it on the board, we just connect them. Same thing here. There's patch panels in between here that we'll learn more about. In fact, we talk a little more about the physical wiring on, it'd be Tuesday next week. Yeah, we learned a few commands today. So on ARP, Address Resolution Protocol, it shows an IP address in your PC matched up with the media access control address, the physical address. So it creates a matchup. Okay? So when somebody pings based on an IP, your computer can figure out which MAC address to send it to in the switch. That physical address. So this shows that. This shows the ARP. And so what we did is we went down the lab. The students were to take an ARP, see what was in it, then do some work, ping another computer, and then check the ARP again. We'll talk about on Tuesday what they should have seen. IP config all. That shows us lots of information concerning the addressing on a specific device. And we'll clarify all that on Tuesday. You can send a message. Now here we're sending it to a domain name, and that domain name would then have to go through a domain name services server so that we eventually could get the IP address, and then we would use that to locate that server. And what this does, this sends a little bit of data to that server, and then it waits to see if it comes back. Traceroute does pings over and over, but it keeps track of the hops, of where the packet stopped on its trip. There. Let me do this. Hops. Sorry about that. Hops. So it went to one router. We'll draw this out more later. Then it went to another routing device, and so it worked its way from start to stop, and then it gave the time it took to move through there, through the internet. Okay. Name services lookup. This you can type like this, and then an example would be Dell, and then it returned the IP addresses that work for Dell. So these are stored in the domain name services. So when you type Dell.com, it gets these first and then goes to the Dell servers based on this address routing through the internet. When it gets into the local network, it's got to use the MAC address to go through a switch to actually find the actual server. We'll draw that more detailed on Tuesday. Yeah, a lot to do on Tuesday. Not much for lab, So, the key things in here. More on this a little bit later on, but this is a NIAC. This is for the IT department. We got a subdomain, and here's the domain at NIAC. And this would take you to some things here in our area. DHCP, yes. So this computer got this address right here from a server. So this is the client, and then it contacted a DHCP server, and then that server gave it this address. This indicates these two octets, 8 bits for each of those represent which part of this is the network, and this part is the interface that's connected to it. Crazy. This will make more sense. We really, chapter 4 goes more in depth in addressing. This is the default gateway. This is the address to go to if you can't find what you're looking for in your local network, in your current network. This is the DHCP server. This is that place that dishes out enabled and then dishes out this information here. It also sends out the DNS. These DNS servers. So if you're looking for Dell.com, it's probably stored locally on this server. If it's not, if it's a site you have never been to, DNS will look locally and then it will go out to the internet. And there's, I don't know, like 13 major DNS servers in the whole world, and they have everything. So I'll go out, get it from there, and bring it back. Almost done. So we'll finish up chapter 2 talking about how networks affect us daily. We'll finish that up on Tuesday. So you need to be working through and reading the curriculum and making sure you keep up. Let me know if you have any questions. Alright. Hopefully you'll have a nice weekend. Over and out.